I stood there in disbelief, staring at the bright orange notice taped to my gate. $500 a day? For what? A fence I built to protect my home and land from coyotes? I thought of the countless hours I had poured into Lawson Ranch, my sanctuary in the heart of Colorado, only to be threatened by some HOA I didn't even belong to. Wasn't I supposed to be the one calling the shots here? Just a month ago, everything seemed so clear. I was a simple rancher trying to carve out a quiet life amidst the mountains, free from the chaos of the city. That's when everything changed. It began with a young couple lost and confused at the edge of my gravel drive. They were looking for Redstone Meadows, but I assured them they were well off course. Their eyes lit up at the sight of my land. Though, "It's beautiful out here," the man said. "We're looking for a lot with a view of the mountains." As I waved them away, I didn't think much of it. Over the following weeks, however, more city folks arrived, snapping photos, marveling at my ranch, and the quiet I had come to cherish. But then came the wooden stakes, bright pink flags, and the bold sign heralding Lot 27, future home site. It hit me like a punch in the gut. How was anyone planning to build here? This was my home, my property, the land where I buried my beloved dog Scout and tended to my vegetable patch. Determined to learn the truth, I drove into town to speak with Mary, the county clerk. Her furrowed brow told me this was no simple mistake. A developer named Fairbrook Homes had been filing new plans, and somehow my land was on their radar. "This is trespassing," she said. "You need to put up a fence." I took her advice, spending my savings and countless nights constructing a sturdy cedar barricade around the front half of my property. Within days, the fine started. At first, I laughed it off as a clerical mix-up. But then I learned that I had been marked as Lot 27 of Redstone Meadows, the property sold without my consent. My heart raced as I frantically called the number on the fine. Janine, the HOA representative, sounded bored. When I asserted that I wasn't part of a precious subdivision, she hung up on me. Things escalated quickly when I came face to face with a shoot named Davis, clutching a clip of notices to deliver. "You're in violation of community standards," he declared, and just like that, my heart sank. They'd already assessed fines for 3 days, and my name was misspelled. As if my fury wasn't boiling over, the next morning brought surveyors to my property. "The land has been cleared for development. You're standing on Lot 27, one announced, mapping out my entire livelihood. I gritted my teeth. "Get off my land. This is Lawson Ranch." They looked unsure for just a second before sidestepping my anger. I called my attorney bill, and after explaining the shocking turn of events, he grimly stated, "You've got a classic case of land fraud." My disbelief morphed into raw anger. The sheriff couldn't even protect me from this. The next day, I found myself roaring down the road, a determined scowl on my face as I resolved to fight back. I needed evidence, something to prove I was a rightful landowner. Arriving home, I saw more orange notices, now demanding $1,500. These invisible rules were smothering me, demanding I bend to their will, but I wouldn't relent. They may have taken my peace, but they hadn't taken my will to fight. And that's when I found them. The moving truck pulled into my drive as if they owned the place. It was the same young couple from weeks back, now living their dream in a supposed Lot 27. They didn't even hesitate as they got out, their smiles starkly contrasting my twisted fury. "We just closed last week." They cheered, and I felt my stomach drop. They had been duped just like me. This was it. The stakes had never been higher. I pounded my fist on the gate, my heart racing wildly. "You bought this land? You're standing on Lawson Ranch." They exchanged startled glances, but I held my ground. The couple's dream was built on stolen soil. But could I make them see that? Or were they too far gone? They climbed back into their moving truck, visibly shaken, but not before agreeing to help me fight back. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. We gathered every ounce of evidence, and that night the crowd began to grow. As the stars twinkled overhead, I sensed something shifting within me, a determination ignited amidst the chaos. Together we would stand our ground. I was Hank Lawson, and I wasn't going to lose my land. Not without a fight. As the wind rustled through the trees, I vowed to protect my home, and whatever darkness was lurking in the shadows would soon meet the light. The crowd grew as I stood my ground, heart pounding, fists clenched at my sides. Kyle and Megan, the unsuspecting couple who were now entangled in this web of deceit, looked lost as they hovered by their moving truck. "We didn't know." Megan called out, her voice shaking. "We just wanted a home." "Your realtor lied to you," I shot back, anger coiling tightly in my chest. "You don't even know what you've walked into." I could see uncertainty flicker in their eyes, but the fear of being scammed hardened my resolve. Behind me, the townsfolk murmured, their faces set with concern. Some held signs that read, "Keep Lawson Ranch free," while others had their phones out, capturing the moment as if it was some grand spectacle. "You need to leave," I warned the couple. "This isn't your land." Just then, a black sedan screeched to a halt at the end of the driveway. The engine growled loudly as a man stepped out, sharpshooted and self-assured. Troy Whitaker, Fairbrook's attorney. He strode toward me, a smug look plastered on his face. The crowd fell silent. Tension thick in the air. "Mr. Lawson," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "I'm here to make this easy for you. The couple's arrangement is legitimate. I suggest you vacate gracefully before this escalates further." I laughed in disbelief. "Vacate? So you can bulldoze my home? You've got another thing coming, Whitaker." He held up a hand, dismissing my words. "You've already cost us enough. If you don't cooperate, I'll make sure you pay, through the courts and more." My blood boiled at his threat. "You think I'll back down after everything? They forged my signature to steal my land. I have the proof." Troy's smile faltered momentarily, but he quickly regained his composure. "Proof? Your word against mine, and you have nothing. The law protects legitimate buyers." A chill ran through me. Maybe he had a point, but I couldn't let doubt creep in. Bill had assured me we were prepared. I glanced back at the crowd. Their faces showed support, but the knot in my stomach tightened. "You're bluffing," I said, forcing the steadfastness into my voice. "And you know it." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "This is just a bump in the road for us. Not if I have anything to say about it." With that, I turned my back, focusing on Kyle and Megan. They looked awkward, standing by their truck with all their belongings still packed. "This is wrong," Kyle said, gripping the edge of the cab. "We can fight back. We didn't mean to get mixed up in this." "Do you have your purchase documents?" I asked, urgency flooding my voice. This was a chance, a crack in Fairbrook's foundation. "Yeah, but—" Megan started. "No buts." Bill's familiar voice cut through the tension, suddenly appearing between Troy and myself, briefcase in hand and fury etched across his face. Troy stepped back, realizing he wasn't the only player in this game. "You should leave while you can." "Bill," he warned, adjusting his tie. "This is bigger than you think." "Nothing's bigger than justice," Bill shot back, holding up his phone. "I just got off a line with a few people who care about this community, and they are not about to see an innocent man driven out by a corrupt developer." The crowd began to stir again, murmurs rising with renewed hope. Troy's facade was cracking. He could feel the pressure. "I'll see you in court," he spat, but I could detect the tremor in his voice. "Just try," I challenged, surprising even myself with the fierceness surging within me. Troy turned, storming back to his car, but not before I saw panic flash across his eyes. Megan took a breath, her eyes wide as she finally spoke. "We'll help you fight this. We'll show our documents to everyone. If they forge your name, they didn't get ours." "Absolutely," Kyle added, determination creeping into his stance. "This isn't right." As they started sorting through the moving truck, I caught Bill's eye. "What's next?" I asked, a renewed fire chasing away doubt. "We keep pushing. Gather everything you have, photos, records, correspondence. And we need to file a suit against Fairbrook for fraudulent practices. We can hit them hard." I could hardly stand, still waiting for the news. The crowd buzzed as people began sharing my plight on social media, and I felt an army forming around me, an unexpected hope taking root amidst the chaos of fight. But then, just as I began believing we might break through, the unmistakable sound of sirens sliced through the air. I squinted down the road, dread creeping back in. 2 sheriff's cars sped toward us, lights flashing as they pulled up beside the crowd. "Sheriff Dalton, what's going on?" I called as he stepped out, scanning the scene. "I got reports about a disturbance," he said, his brows furrowed like he was processing a puzzle. "What's happening here?" I took a deep breath and launched into my explanation, detailing Troy's threats, the fraudulent sale, and the intruding couple who hadn't even realized the war they'd become part of. "You see, Sheriff, they are trying to take my land, and now they are back with moving trucks while the paperwork is forged." Dalton nodded thoughtfully but glanced at the Fairbrook staff, who stood in the background, observing. "This is serious, indeed. I can't just jump to conclusions without evidence." "Evidence is right here," Bill interjected, raising the briefcase filled with documents. "We have proof of everything: fraudulent signatures, correspondence, photos taken on this land just an hour ago." I could see Dalton's resolve vacillate. "Okay," he finally said, "let's sort this out. Your situation seems dire, Hank, but we need to handle this legally." Just as he spoke, a voice cut through from behind me. "There are ways to handle this without following all that red tape." I turned to see a man I hadn't noticed before, a scruffy individual with a badge loosely hanging from his belt. He stood confidently in the crowd, arms crossed, observing the chaos unfold. Sometimes people respect power more than papers and rules. Before I could respond, the man continued, "You need people who can rattle their cages, Hank. Put some fear into them that isn't tied to a piece of paper." Dalton raised his brow, intrigued. "And who are you?" "Just someone who knows the system," he said nonchalantly, glancing at me in a way that screamed desperation blended with deep-rooted knowledge. "The good old-fashioned way might just work better than you think." My heart raced again. What did he mean? And who was he, really? But before I could ask, a text buzzed in my pocket. It was from Bill. "Meet me at the truck in 5 minutes. There's something I need to share. Urgent." I turned back to the crowd, my instincts tingling, shadows of uncertainty flickering around me. I had come to fight, but now it felt like a larger web was weaving around me. Each decision, every face I encountered, every uneasy text I sent rattled in my mind. Who could I trust? As I made my way to the truck, I stole one last glance behind me. Sheriff Dalton was shaking his head after conversing with the crowd, his face a mixture of concern and disbelief. And that stranger still stood there, arms crossed, studying me as if I were a puzzle he was dying to solve. What had I gotten myself into? As the weight of urgency settled on my shoulders, I knew one thing. I was not out of the woods yet, and the fight for my ranch was only just beginning. As I made my way to the truck, dread rolled through me like a storm cloud. What did Bill have to tell me that was urgent? I heard him stepping away from the crowd, his face tense as he waved me over. "Hank," he said, lowering his voice just as I reached him, "you need to see this." He held out his phone, showing me a news article that had just been published. The headline screamed, "Local rancher fights to save home after developer claims land via fraud." As I scrolled down, my heart sank deeper. "Look at the comments," he urged, pointing at the screen. Most were supportive, but some were laced with threats, urging Fairbrook to come down harder. "And check the timestamps," he added. This post went up right as Troy showed up. My hands trembled. "They are stirring the pot, trying to make me the villain." "Exactly," Bill replied grimly. "They know you're gaining support." Just then, the scruffy man from earlier sauntered closer. "You two planning a revolution or something?" "Who are you?" I blurted, narrowing my eyes. "Just another guy who's tired of watching greedy folks take what's not theirs," he said. "Name's Jake." "What do you want?" Bill shot back, unconvinced. "They're going to play dirty, Hank," Jake warned. "I've seen it happen before. They'll try to scare off anyone standing with you. Like I don't have enough to worry about." I muttered, scanning the crowd, half expecting another moving truck to pull up any second. If they were coming for me, I needed to be ready. "Listen," Jake said, stepping in closer. "You want to keep this fight going. You need people who can make a little noise. Maybe even rattle some cages." I exchanged a glance with Bill. "What are you proposing?" "Some of us know how to make a scene without getting too tangled in rules. Create distractions that'll keep Fairbrook's attention occupied. Before I could respond, the sound of a horn blared from the end of the driveway. A convoy, a bunch of white pickup trucks, had pulled up emblazoned with Fairbrook logos, engines revving aggressively. "They are back," I whispered, adrenaline surging as I gripped the edge of my truck. From the lead vehicle, Troy stepped out, flanked by a group of shifty-eyed men in sunglasses. My heart raced. This was it. "Mr. Lawson," Troy called, voice oozing false cheer. "We've come to resolve this situation once and for all." "By trying to run me out," I snapped. "By helping you see the reality of your situation," he shot back, watching the crowd with an arrogant smirk. I stepped forward, fists clenched. "You want to resolve it? How about you admit the truth? You sold land that isn't yours, forged my signature, and now you're trying to terrify the community into submission. That's not resolution, that's theft." He chuckled softly, shaking his head as if I were a small child throwing a tantrum. "We've got a court order. Hank, you have 12 hours to vacate the premises. You really want to make this harder on yourself." "Enough games." I backed, eyes scanning the people behind me, their expressions shifting from support to fear. "This land is my home. It's not just some plot of dirt for you to bulldoze." "I suggest you reconsider your position," he replied, flipping a folder open with a flourish. Inside lay what appeared to be legal documents. "You have a choice. Leave now or face immediate eviction and hefty fines." The crowd shifted uneasily. Someone shouted, "Get off our land." It was a voice of defiance. Encouraged, I turned back to Troy. "No one's going anywhere, not while I'm standing here," I declared, my voice ringing through the air. Suddenly, Troy's eyes narrowed, losing that charming mask. "You do realize this isn't just about you anymore? You're dragging them into your fight, and they'll pay for it." "What have you done?" I demanded, narrowing my gaze at him. "We've not done anything yet," he said with a grin that sent a chill down my spine. "But I think some of your neighbors need a little reminder where power lies in these situations." At that moment, I felt a tightness in my chest, fear that hit harder than anything. My heart raced as the crowd murmured nervously. What did he mean? "Don't try to scare us." Kyle shouted, stepping forward defiantly. "We've got each other's backs." Troy raised an eyebrow, then waved casually in the air. "Really? Because I've heard some unsettling things about certain ranches here. Maybe some long-awaited debts are owed." "What kind of debts?" I challenged, anxiety creeping in. Before Troy could respond, one of the men with him pulled out a clip and whispered something into his ear. "Looks like some of your friends are more than just neighbors here, Hank," Troy said, pointing toward people in the crowd. "Careful who you trust." My stomach sank as I scanned the faces around me. I recognized some of his old acquaintances, neighbors I've known for years. Were they hiding something? Bill squeezed my shoulder. "Don't let him rattle you. We've got the upper hand as long as we stick together." Behind me, Jake stepped forward with that same steely determination. "What you don't understand, Troy, is that these people are just as tired of your tactics as he is. You won't intimidate us. Not today." The crowd began to rally behind the words, voices rising in unison, echoing through the landscape. They were standing with me, and for a moment, that fear turned to resolve. Troy's expression shifted. His confidence wavered. The energy was palpable. "This isn't over. Lawson," he shouted, retreating back toward his truck, backed up by his team. "Bring it on." I called back, the words bursting from my lips as a crowd erupted in cheers. But just as the tension seemed to ease, an engine roared in the distance, and I felt the ground vibrate beneath my feet. An enormous bulldozer rumbled onto the road, chains rattling ominously, making its approach. Every cheer fell silent, replaced by that unmistakable sound of impending doom. Troy toned, eyes gleaming with malevolent satisfaction. "Perhaps this is more persuasive than words. What do you think, Mr. Lawson? Still want to stand up to power?" Panic seized me as a realization hit. They weren't playing games. They were ready to bulldoze my life right in front of me. Before I could react, the weight of the moment crashed down like a wave. Would my home become a memory? Not if we stopped them. I roared, adrenaline surging again. I glanced at Jake, ready for action, but he was already running toward the oncoming vehicle. We need to block them. I yelled, following his lead. Everyone, move! Get in their way! I shouted, desperation fueling my every word. As chaos erupted, people rushed forward to form a barricade, neighbors shouting warnings, brandishing their phones like weapons, ready to capture the scene unfolding before us. The bulldozer slowed, the operator looking startled. "Stop right there!" I screamed, an urgency coursing through me. "You don't have permission." The driver hesitated, glancing nervously at the growing crowd, their faces fierce with determination. Behind me, Bill was slamming his phone down, ready to call the sheriff. All we needed was for that bulldozer to back down. I could feel the weight of the moment, the tide turning. Troy stepped back, his confidence wavering with every step. "We'll be back, Hank. You can count on that." The bulldozer stalled, the operator still unsure. "You okay back there?" he shouted, glancing back at Troy. "Stay put." Troy backed, frustration peeling back his bravado. "We'll get it sorted." But it felt different now. The crowd was emboldened, standing together in the face of greed. I took a deep breath and stepped into the space they created, directly facing Troy. "Do you really think you can come here, take my life, and walk away unchallenged? You've underestimated the strength of this community." His expression flickered, a mix of disbelief and anger. "This isn't over, Hank." I felt my heart gallop in my chest. This was only the beginning. The unknown twisted ahead, and I knew we had a long battle in front of us. But today, this moment mattered. We were winning the first round. As the sun broke through the clouds above, illuminating the dust swirling in the air, the cheers erupted again, louder, stronger. Together, we stood firm. Together, we would fight to keep Lawson Ranch alive. The clash was far from over, but now I could see a path forward. Today, we had not only defended our land, but ignited a spark of resistance that couldn't be snuffed out. The crowd roared as I faced down Troy and his crew, adrenaline pumping through my veins. They stood there, mouths agape, unsure how to proceed as angry neighbors surged forward, forming a wall of defiance, families, friends, and strangers united in purpose. In that moment, we were unbreakable. "Get the bulldozer out of here!" I shouted, my voice fierce. "You don't own this land, and we're not going anywhere." Troy's gaze flicked around the crowd, his expression a twisted blend of disbelief and fury. "You people don't understand what you're facing," he sneered, attempting to maintain control as he raised his voice. "You've made a grave mistake. What's at stake here is much bigger than you." "Bigger than us? Shows what you know. We're not just names on a deed you think you can erase." Bill shouted, pushing his way through to my side. "This is our home, and if you think you can scare us, you've got it all wrong." But just as hope surged, a chilling whisper cut through the noise, a police siren in the distance. It grew louder, echoing against the mountains. I turned to see Sheriff Dalton's car approaching, lights flashing, the tension in my gut tightening like a noose. "Great timing," Troy hissed, a bit of panic in his voice. "You better hope the sheriff is on your side, Lawson." I felt a rush of uncertainty, but determination steadied me. It's too late for intimidation tactics. This is about justice. The sheriff stepped out of his vehicle, eyeing the scene with a furrowed brow. "What's going on here?" he called, his gaze darting between the crowd, the bulldozer, and Troy. "Troy Whitaker is trying to evict me from my own land based on fraudulent documents." I shouted, desperation rising in my throat. "You've got to help us, Sheriff." "Excuse me." Sheriff Dalton replied, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "They sold my home under false pretenses." I took a step forward, hoping against hope he would take my side. "I have documents to prove it." As chaos ebbed, the operator of the bulldozer shifted nervously, hands shaking on controls. He glanced at Troy, waiting for a cue. "This isn't right," he mumbled, the weight of the choice visibly pressing down on him. "Shut it down," Troy barked, but even he sounded less sure now, backing off as the sheriff continued to assess the scene. Dalton cleared his throat, eyes narrowing as he studied the crowd. Is this true, Mr. Whitaker? Are you trying to forcibly displace people without legal grounds? Before Troy could respond, I felt Bill's hand on my shoulder, grounding me. Show him the documents. Hank, now. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone, navigating to the evidence Bill and I had compiled. Hey! I exclaimed, thrusting the screen toward Sheriff Dalton. Emails, signatures, everything. The sheriff scrutinized the screen, brows knitting together as he read through the information. The crowd was silent, every eye fixed on him, waiting for a verdict that felt monumental. Troy stepped forward, but the threatening edge in his eyes had dulled. Sheriff, this is all just. Stand back, Troy. Dalton's voice cracked like a whip, his authority igniting a flicker of fear in Troy's eyes. If these documents are legitimate, then we have a serious legal issue on our hands. I could hardly breathe, hope igniting in my chest. So you'll help? You'll stand with us. I'll facilitate an investigation, yes, he replied, locking eyes with me. But know that this won't happen overnight. There will be legal processes to follow. A murmur rippled through the crowd. It was as if the air itself had shifted. People began to cheer, a wave of relief and defiance washing over us. Just then, Troy's eyes darted from the sheriff to his men, the confidence draining out of him like air from a punctured balloon. But then, something in the distance caught my eye. More vehicles approaching, a fleet of black SUVs gliding silently down the road. My heart sank as they neared, taking shape under the midday sun. They pulled up behind a bulldozer, doors flinging open as sharply dressed figures emerged. Troy's face turned ghostly pale. No, 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 he muttered under his breath, fear cutting through his bravado. What is it? I pressed, but he didn't answer. Instead, he moved closer to one of the newcomers, a man with hard features and an air of authority about him. I glanced back at the sheriff, whose expression reflected my own confusion. Mr. Whitaker, the newcomer said in a voice that silenced the crowd. We need to talk. Troy hesitated. I'm in the middle of something here. The man's eyes did not waver. You just made a critical error. You've attracted unwanted attention. What do you mean? This doesn't concern you. Troy snapped, but doubt etched his voice. Oh, but it does, the man replied, a cool smile forming. You breach protocols, and frankly, the higher-ups are very unhappy. Troy's facade crumbled further as the man pulled out a document and thrust it toward him. You've put us at risk, Troy. It's time we take matters into our own hands. I couldn't believe my ears. What are you saying? I demanded. I'm saying your little charade is over. Either you're with us or not, but you're not fit to lead this anymore, the man declared, looking at Troy as though he were a child caught stealing candy from a store. Troy stammered, stumbling back into his men as realization hit him squarely in the chest. You can't do this. I built this. On lies. The other man cut him off, his tone icy. Now step aside and let real business take place. Troy's bravado completely shattered, replaced by confusion and anger. You'll regret this, he spat, but his voice lacked any strength. With a sudden motion, the sheriff moved closer to Troy, eyes cold. You're done here. I'll be collecting your statements, and I suggest you cooperate. The crowd erupted in a mixture of confusion and disbelief, a storm of emotions swirling as shadows of uncertainty crept back in. But then, just as more chaos seemed inevitable, the stranger stepped forward. And for what it's worth, Lawson, you have friends in higher places, connections that go beyond land sales. I felt hope surge within me as I locked eyes with him. What do you mean? He smiled, a knowing look. You might find allies you didn't know about. He turned back to Troy. And you, my friend, have some debts to settle. The SUV door swung open again, and a woman stepped out, an air of authority radiating from her. Troy, she said evenly, looking down at him with disdain, this is your last chance to step back. We'll not have your failures drag us down with you. Troy choked on his words as he took a step back, nearly slipping into the dust. You promise. Promises made under false pretenses, she said sharply, her gaze unyielding. We will not condone your behavior. The crowd watched, rapt with anticipation, As Troy's world began to crumble around him, his connections sliding away. As the tension reached its peak, the sky darkened momentarily as storm clouds rolled in. Thunder rumbled in the distance, nature's response to the reckoning unfolding. I could hardly believe this turn of events. The answers I sought were appearing before my eyes. "We will investigate your dealings, Troy. If found guilty, there will be consequences," the woman said, turning without a backward glance. And then came the twist I never expected, her lips curving into a smile. "The community deserves better than you. You should have learned it by now. Not all battles are fought with brute force." Suddenly, there was a tremendous crack of thunder, and the first drops of rain began to fall, mingling with the dust and the cheers of victory reverberating from the crowd. Everyone held their breath, unsure of what the next moments would bring. But as the rain began to pour, washing away the remnants of despair, I knew we'd won a critical battle. Today, the fight for Lawson Ranch had transformed from a personal struggle to a community uprising, and the storm that brewed was nowhere near over. With the ground softening beneath our feet and the cries of triumph ringing in my ears, I turned back to the crowd and shouted, "We'll stand together for each other." The response thundered back, a wild roar of unity pulsing through us, ultimate hope gleaming as we pushed to forge ahead into this new dawn, together. And in that unforgettable moment, we became more than just neighbors or friends. We were a force to be reckoned with, ready to take on whatever storm lay ahead. Because the true battle wasn't just to keep my land, but to protect everything we cherished, and together we'd rise to any challenge.